Nation of Fit in 10. It is day 16. And we wrapped up these scans yesterday, and all in all, we had some very, very good results. Amazing results, in fact. Overall, really, really good. And I want to encourage you, whether you are doing exceptional or maybe perhaps you feel a bit frustrated, I want to encourage you to keep going. It is those who keep trying that succeed. It is those who keep going. Rarely do we get incredible success in a very short period of time. In fact, I would say almost never. We've got to keep going. It's only really been 2 weeks. We've got another 8 weeks to go or thereabouts. We got a lot of work to do. It's going to get more intense. Things are going to change. Not tremendously more intense, but there are some things in this that are going to make it a little more challenging. After all, the name of it is a challenge. And so I want you guys just to keep working at it, take it day by day, and don't think about the past. Just keep moving on and figuring out where it is that you can improve. Okay, whether it's in your cardio or your classes, or I should say maybe or your classes, and or your diet. Okay, which, by the way, I'm going to become a little more critical of over these next coming weeks. All right. So yesterday we talked a little bit about, this is in regards to the feedback, how to split up the calories. And I did mention that, it's really not that big of a deal how you split it up, whether you eat more in the night or not. It's not really going to make a big difference, with the exception of maybe your sleep, okay, and your digestion. So, in this regard, you want to have more calories earlier in the day and then maybe try to eat a little bit lighter at night. But when it comes to weight loss, it's really just about your overall calorie. There are nuances with that, your overall calorie intake. There are nuances with that. Of course, the types of calories you eat are going to make a big difference. And for example, and this is just one, and we'll talk about this in a future video, but you may or may not know that it takes about 30% of the calories and protein to digest it. Versus, say, when it comes to carbohydrates, it takes about somewhere around 6-7% of the calories to digest carbohydrates. So basically, protein has a much higher digestive cost, or what we call thermic effect. But at the end of the day, we're really just looking at overall calories, right? And how you choose to split those up is entirely up to you. It's not really going to make a difference, if any difference at all. All right, is there anything you'd like me to cover in this week's video series? I know you already said you do a video on high fiber sources, how to get more fiber, but I think that would be very, very helpful. All right, so I'll do a video on fiber, and we'll go through a little bit about soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, that type of thing. One thing that's really, really important with fiber, though, is that it slows the gastric emptying. So, this is a good thing because it slows digestion, okay, in your stomach, okay? It actually, it decreases transit time through your intestinal tract, but it slows it in the stomach, and this is really, really important, especially if we're having carbohydrates or simple carbohydrates, more notably, because fiber will slow down the absorption of this, and this allows your body to better assimilate or to better manage, in particular, sugars, because you've got less coming in the bloodstream at one period of time, right? So there is, it's like, if you imagine a line up to a store on a, Boxing Day sale, and you're just kind of trickling people in, and they get to go in and buy, and they get out of the store. And so it's managed very well. It's not chaotic in the store versus, say, you've got a line of people, all of a sudden the doors open, and everybody just rushes in. It's just like mad chaos, right? It's the same kind of idea here. Fiber is sort of one of those, you could call it like, not filtering, but sort of like bottleneck type nutrients that's going to slow the release, or if you have a chemistry background, it's like almost allowing things to be slowly titrated in. Now, in terms of sources, there are many, many great sources. Obviously, this is one reason why I have you eat lots of fruits and vegetables. Grains, some breads are really, really good for this. Like squirrely bread is really good. So is Ezekiel bread. They're very, very high in fiber, up to I think up to 5 grams of fiber per slice. But generally, real whole foods, obviously not meats. Meats don't have fiber. But when we're talking about a lot of fruits and vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, most fruits, berries are a phenomenal source of fiber. And of course, we can't forget things like nuts. Okay, these are all great sources of fiber. Fiber is really, really important when it comes to fat loss as well, right? And part of that is what I just talked about, right? The slowing of nutrients into the bloodstream, in particular sugar. So really, really important to get good sources of fiber. Again, getting in things like, it could be oatmeal. It can be things like yams. Okay, so we're talking more about starches here in particular. Brown rice as opposed to white rice. When it comes to fruits, things like apples, oranges, berries, as I mentioned, are a very, very good source. They're super fiber dense, especially in relation to the amount of carbohydrates they have, or fiber is a carbohydrate, but in relation to the amount of sugar in particular that they have. Things like prunes. Dried fruit is something that will be high in fiber, but probably want to stay away from. A lot of dried fruit is great, but it's also it's less voluminous, so you're gonna be able to eat more of it. So I would suggest eating fruit that is not dried. When it comes to cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus. Asparagus wouldn't be cruciferous, but cauliflower, these types of things, these are all going to be very, very high in fiber. So thinking about fruits and vegetables, foods that have been less processed, right? For example, the brown rice over white rice, and also things like barley and seeds. These are all going to be great sources of and also legumes, right? Things like peas and beans, very high in fiber. One other thing I wanted to say, what was it? Oh yeah, I already talked about this before, but also NutriCleanse. All right, NutriCleanse, if you're not familiar with it, it is a fiber supplement. I really, really like it because it's a blend of just a couple of, if you like, whole food ingredients. I guess you could call them more supplemental. Well, it is a supplement, but the ingredients aren't really things you would eat. But they are sort of natural sources, things like psyllium husk and flaxseed and burdock root and what else is in there? There is one dandelion root and I think one other thing in there. But again, a very, very good source of fiber. It is actually primarily made as a fiber supplement. So you can look for that in any health food store, NutriCleanse. I used to sell it, but I just didn't sell enough of it, so I don't carry it anymore. So, all right. Anything else I want to say on that? So again, things like, oat-based stuff, oat bran, barley, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, peas, a lot of different fruits and vegetables. Not all fruits and vegetables, but a lot of them. All right. 9 minutes. Crazy. Okay. I'm not sure where the time went, but let's get the message of the day. How about that? Okay. So a reminder, just considering we just did the first check-in, or I guess second check-in you could call it, so it doesn't confuse you. This is you versus you. Okay, we got to focus on yourself. You may always see somebody or you may compare yourself or whatever. You may, we often have this. I think it's just human nature to compare, but ultimately what is going to help you is for you to focus on you. Look for the areas where you can improve, right? We can all find areas where we can improve upon, and then not necessarily try to change those overnight, but make little steps in areas where we can get better. Whether that is improving on your fiber intake, which by the way, we don't have a fiber. I should actually mention this earlier. We don't have a fiber target, but there will be one coming up. So just FYI on that. maybe it's fiber you want to improve. Maybe it's, your protein intake. Maybe it's just trying to stay within your all three of those numbers. But remember, when you're trying to improve on something, give yourself something specific that you can be accountable to. All right, this is where you will get better. You will not get better by comparing yourself to other people. That's kind of futile and probably just going to make you frustrated. Look for areas where you can improve, okay, and then set yourself up with some, small targets with that, right? And we already talked about this before, but, I gave the example of, if you're supposed to have 100 grams protein per day, set yourself up, and you're not getting there, set yourself up with a target that is going to help you. Set yourself up with a minimum of 80 or 90 or whatever it is, but something where it's going to force you to improve and something where you can be accountable, something that you can be accountable to, okay? Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude. I will talk to you all tomorrow. See you guys.